Hey guys, welcome to another Raid Shadow Legends video. Just a quick one before we start this blender composition video today. If you don't want to listen to this and just in the future, just skip ahead on the index below. But it's a 10 times event starting tomorrow. We're looking at Krisk, the ageless that's actually in here. He is nuts, so if you're ever got a chance of pulling on a 10 times, I would say this is one of the better ones because Krisk is a beast. He's one of, if not my best champion, I think. And yeah, so I think you're only competing against like him and the Angar for the voids. It must be provoke base because it's Umbral Enchantress, Molly Tankar's in there, Krisk, Angar, all the decent provoke champions. So maybe worth pulling tomorrow. I don't normally advocate the 10 times, but Krisk is a monster. So if you need him, definitely spend some shards, I think. But anyway guys, what we're going to do today is go through the fastest way to farm arena medals, and that is using the blender composition. Now, plenty of people have done videos on this in the past, it's been covered loads, but I'm going to do a real in-depth video showing you all the different options you can use from rares all the way up to legendaries. There's so many different options actually for this team that can work depending on your level. And obviously not everyone's shooting for Platinum Arena, so there's plenty of options here that you could use in sort of silver, early gold levels, and they'll blast through the opponent so easy and you'll farm those medals really quick. Great for new players. But I'm like an end-to-end game player and I still use my blender composition all the time for farming. It can actually farm in Platinum as well. It's just pretty difficult because you need pretty insane gear unless you're picky against who you fight against. But it can be used anywhere, really strong. And there's been some good new champions just released that could definitely improve the team. So let's just go into Arena. Let's go in and see what we've got. Top team here, 200k power should be tough enough. So you're basically just going in, hit auto straight away, and your team should just blast through. There's shields in this team, but should just blast through it in a winner like that. And then you literally just move down the list. So this has got Seeker in it, so there's some damage mitigation coming here. So it might be a bit tougher, but I'm pretty sure this will just blast through it. Yep, straight through it. The vast majority of the time though, I'm not going to go Torment because I don't have immunity on this team. Here we go again. You get the idea, guys. You just pretty much blast through teams in like 2 seconds every single time. So if you're getting 4 medals every single 2 seconds, well, when I say 2 seconds, it's actually about 10-15 seconds all in to get in and out of the menu. But you do the maths, you can go through a hell of a lot of medals super quick. It's actually more just depends how many resources you've got to get through. Because if you had unlimited resources, you could pile up the medals in a couple of days, to be honest, if you really wanted to do it. So let's just do one more for good measure. We've got a Duchess here. So Duchess has got damage mitigation built into her kit. So this will be interesting to see if this can blast through this team. Shield on as well. So yep, still blast through it. So it's pretty damn strong. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go through every single role and show you all the options you've got for each role. So you're always looking at 3 different roles for the blender composition. You've got your speed lead here. You've got your team attack champion, then you've got 2 nukers that have AoE abilities on their A1. Has to be AoE abilities on their A1 because the team attack basically always uses the default skills. So that's how it works. Right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to choose the best speed lead champions and go through them, the best possible choices for your team attack champion, and then we'll also choose the best AoE A1ers for your damage dealers. I've picked out a good group of them and we're just going to cover them all in this part of the video. The other thing we're going to cover is gear, but that's going to be at the end of this segment, so you can switch to that on the timestamp below. But gear is another important thing. But yeah, we'll cover all these things first. So I think the most sensible thing to do is do the team attack champions first because that is the backbone of this team. So as you can see, I've chosen 6. There's 6 available here. There are more in the game, but they just don't work for blender compositions. You need a team that's going to attack with all of the characters, especially the 2 AoEs. Because if you don't, then it's just useless. And there's plenty of other champions out there that do things like team attack with 2 random champions, but that's just no use because if you miss that other AoE, you've lost 50% of your damage. So that's a no-go. So these are really the only choices. And we'll go from number 6 all the way down to 1. Number 6 coming in at Catacomb Counselor in the Undead Hordes. He's actually the worst on the list, but he's still very, very good, so you can use him. And effectively, they're just doing one job. So he's got the basic ally attack here, teams up with 3 random allies to attack a single enemy, so it's just the bog standard attack. He's got a half decent attack. The thing that lets him down is his speed. So another thing I should have said is the speed is a very key element in this team. You're going to have your speed lead going pretty fast, and then you've got to have this guy coming behind them. So if he's at 92, you're going to need better gear to get him to the level where you need to get to that second place every single time, because you don't want to be getting cut in by Valkyries, by other just crazy fast Lysandras, things like that. So that would be a nightmare. I'm not going to go through all their kit for every single one, but the only other thing you need to know is the A1, because they will attack with that most of the time. So this has a 50% chance of placing increased attack on this guy, so you can deal a little bit of damage with him, but he's not there, he's just there for the team attack. Now, unfortunately, number 5 is a legendary, so this is quite a legendary heavy sort of list here. So there's 2 epics here, and the rest are all legendaries. We're looking in Dark Elves for Lanicus the Chosen. She is very, very good. They're pretty close, a lot of these guys, but she is very good. So her one here is basically she has this really cool thing where she can put an increased crit rate and increased attack buff on all allies for 2 turns, then a 25% chance of it granting an extra turn, which can make her actually the best champion for this role, but only if this lands, and it's another 25% through book, so you get 50%. So if you want to gamble with the 50-50, she technically becomes the best one, but most of the time you're not going to be able to do that, because if that doesn't come through in the 50-50, you've lost this, then your team's dead the way it's set up. So realistically, if that maybe went a little bit less, I don't know, one of the buffs down, and then said guaranteed extra turn, she would be really, really strong. But pretty much always you have to just use this A2, which is the team attack. So teams up with 3 random allies, allies join the attack, use the default skills as usual, fills the turn meter of all allies by 30%, increases duration of buffs. So this is okay, but it's not really killing the team. The whole idea of the blender comp is just to kill them outright. So this is a more of a kind of sustained beating kind of ability. So not much use for what we're looking for. Like I say, if you can get this on first, it's crazy, crazy strong. But pretty much, well, yeah, 100% of the time you need to use this, because you need this to work 100% of the time, because if it doesn't, you're dead. So that's why she's coming at number 5. Number 4 is a fairly new one. It's an Orcs champion. We're looking down here to Krila. And Krila is absolutely insane. She's so good in any other part of the game. But the reason she's so good is she places this ability here, which puts a stun on one enemy, and then has an 80% chance of teaming up with 3 allies to join an attack. So she does exactly the same, but she's able to stun a champion of her choice as well, which makes her super strong. So you could stun, if you've got high enough accuracy, you could stun like a Duchess and then just team attack the rest. If it doesn't kill the Duchess, then you've got another chance to come and hit her. She does crazy damage as well, so her A2 hits really, really hard if you need to clean up people at the end. So she's a really, really strong choice if you have her. 99 speed as well, which is pretty good. So into the Skinwalkers next, and this is probably the most popular guy for a long time. He's got this ally attack that attacks an enemy with 4 allies, and damage increases by 20% straight up. So nice and simple. 97 speed, so reasonable speed. He deals good damage himself, but for straight up damage, he's kind of tied now, I think, with the top 2 because of the buffs they put on, but he's the only guy that actually just increases damage, so he is very, very good. Like I say, the top 3 here are pretty close. You could use any one of these 3, but I've put him in at number 3. Mainly as well because he's a Skinwalker and he's a legendary, so legendaries are a bit harder to get. Number 2 is my man, Backer the Fat. Did a video guide on him, so if you want to just check it out, I'll link it above. He's really, really good, and he's an epic, so he's easier to get. Solid stats, he's got 100 speed as well, so he's right up there. He's got this ability which puts increased crit rate and increased crit damage for 3 turns, then attacks. So it's basically like, you know, like Lanicus' ability, but built into one, except she's not crit damage, she's increased attack. But either way, 30% crit damage and 50% attacks. They're both really good abilities. They're both roughly going to put out the same damage output. So it's like he's got the 2 abilities put into one. But the only issue with him is he doesn't attack himself. But like most of the time, you're just wanting to get speed with this ally attack champion, so they're not going to be geared to do damage anyway, so it doesn't really matter. So yeah, but the fact that he's an epic and he does all this sort of stuff just makes him crazy. He's really good for clan boss as well if you want to use him there. He's got HP burn and poisons here, and he actually puts decreased defense down on his A1, which is another handy one. He's got a weird passive. It's I'm not totally sure what it's supposed to do, but yeah, this is all you're looking for him. So definitely the number 2 spot. The only reason he's been pipped at number 1 is because this guy just came out and he is insane. Big shiny gold man. He's pretty nuts. So basically, he actually has the exact same ability. So increased crit rate and increased crit damage for 2 turns. Teams up with allies to attack an enemy. But the good thing about this is it reads he attacks as well. So it's basically just a straight up buff on Fakran's ability. Exactly the same, but attacks. It also has the decrease cooldown of this skill by 1 turn if an enemy's killed, which they will be. So effectively it's on a 3-turn cooldown too, which is even more crazy. But the reason he's number 1 is because his kit, the rest of his kit's just insane. So you have to put him above Fakran, because this is a buff to Fakrans, but he's also got a much better A1 that can put True Fears down on these sort of champions. Heals as well. He's got the best cleanse in the game on his A2. He's also got a speed lead for all battles. He's just absolutely nuts. And he's got this crazy passive where you deal less, where you actually receive less damage from these 3 factions. So that's stuff like Demon Spawn, you're talking Candrafons, things like that. It's a lot, Night Revenant, that's going to be stuff like Skull Crowns, they're real arena champions, so this is a good ability. So he is the number 1 choice. He's also 106 speed, so the fastest, I believe, let's double check. I can't remember what Lanicus was. She's 108, so Lanicus is actually the fastest. So if you are struggling for gear, technically she's the best, but 108, 106, there's not much in it, and her abilities are so much worse than Cardale, so he is by far the number 1. So like I say, for this champion, after your speed lead, he goes second. You want him. In fact, there is actually, if you go to Deadwood Jedi's website, there's one of my clanmates, Zombie Lord, he made a really, really good calculator. It's an arena calculator, and it can work out, if you get your Arbiter or your speed lead to a certain speed, what speed does your second guy need to be in to make sure he doesn't get cut in by things like Valkyrie through her passive. So it's well worth using that out. But to be honest, if you put the best speed gear you have on your champion, on your speed champion, just make sure you can get your team attack guy as close to that as possible, and you'll not be far wrong. So next we're covering the speed lead. So there's a few choices here. There's a few rare choices as well, at least, so it makes it a little bit easier. Let's see, we're going to Lizardman first. This guy's actually really strong. I think he gets overlooked a lot. So all you're looking from a speed lead is a speed aura. So you need a speed aura to boost your whole team's speed off the bat. Then you need an ability that increases the turn meter of all your champions. So not only are they faster off the bat, they also get an increased turn meter. So this guy is the most basic of the bunch. You could use this guy sort of silver arena, moving up to early gold if you need to, but you'll probably struggle. But if you're wanting to build this team and you're still fairly low level, this is a definite choice. So increased speed in arena battles by 15%, and then he also fills the turn meter by 15% and an increased speed buff. So that's a lot of speed you're getting. He's a solid choice for anyone just starting. But if you can do it, I would highly recommend waiting until you can get to, if I can find her, High Katoon. So she's a free champion you actually get in your daily logins. It's been that long, I can't remember exactly when, but it's not too far into it. And she has speed in all battles aura, so it's 4% more than the rares, and it's also in all battles. And she also basically does the same thing, but it's the bigger increased speed and fills the turn meter. She's also got 104 base speed, so it's a bit easier to get her faster. She's got a great kit as well, putting decreased speed down, decreased turn meter here. So she's definitely a solid choice. And yeah, at 104 speed, it's easier to get her into that position to be fast. The next one, he's the most popular for sort of mid-game arena, I think, is Gorgorab. He's really, really good. The only thing that lets him down is his speed's only 97, but he has a better speed aura than High Katoon. It's 23%, but just in arena. And he's got a fill turn meter and increased attack buff, which is same as Arbiter. So you're actually getting the increased attack, which makes a huge difference in the Blender comp because you're going to deal a ton more damage. So that is the reason I've put him in there. He doesn't have an extra speed buff, but to be honest, the speed buff only kicks in afterwards, so the turn meter fill is really what you're looking for, and he's got a bigger speed aura here, so that's fine. He does also have a really good revive on his A3 if things go the wrong way as well. So this next one I actually don't have, but he's just a fairly new champion that's been released in the last patch, and I think he might be really, really good. I'm not totally sure yet. So I've put him above Gorgrab. It might be a little bit much, but he increases speed by 19% in all battles again. So same as Haikatoon, he's not quite as good as Gorgrab there. But the reason I've put him above it is because he fills the turn meter, but he also decreases their turn meter, which is the same as Lysandra, which is a pretty crazy ability. So you're actually getting a 30% divide there, which is better. But he also grants an extra turn, and then you can go into an AoE that basically puts decreased defense on everyone. So he's the only guy on the list that can put decreased defense down. The only issue is you'd have to get the accuracy up, and if you're trying to get him crazy high speed, that might be a bit of an issue, unless you get super lucky with your rolls. So this might not be doable. But I think if you had insane gear, this guy could be pretty nuts. He's 100 speed as well, so he's not fast, but not slow either. He's got Leech on his A2, isn't his A1, sorry. He's a good champion, but I think I'd like to see someone using him in insane gear and see how good he is, because like I say, he's the only champion on this list that can actually put a debuff down, and decreased defense is the best one if you're going to be using a blender. And speaking of Lysandra, she's coming in at number 3, and she's nuts. I don't actually have her, I really wish I did, but she's got this increased speed and then fills the turn meter by 30 and decreases their turn meter by 30. So it's the biggest speed divide in the whole game. So there's a couple of reasons she's not number 1 or 2, but that is the best for just automatically decreasing their speed and increasing your turn meter, sorry. It's pretty crazy. This is the reason she's not at number 1 or 2, because increased speed in all battles by 24% isn't quite as high as the top 2. She's also got a crazy A2 that defleets full turn meter, puts debuffs onto stuff. She's really, really good, but the whole idea with this champion is you want her to go first. So she's got 110 speed, which is crazy fast, and the number 2 spot here, Kaimar, I think is 103, but the issue between them is she only gives 24%, and you need her as a speed lead, which can be the sort of deal breaker in getting this champion to go first. So, 5 or 6 speed at platinum level, or even just gold 4 level, when you're competing against other fast arbiters and things like that, you need to have your champion super fast. So that's the only reason she's not at number 1 or 2 spot, because she won't be able to take the turn faster than the other two. Normally she's run alongside someone like an arbiter to make sure she goes second, then decreases their turn meter, then it's game over. And I mean, you can put crazy gear in her, don't get me wrong, but yeah, that's kind of how it works, because you need that extra 30% straight off the bat rather than her 24%. So speaking of Kaimar, here he is, probably my favourite champ in the game. He's awesome. He's got 30% in arena battles. He's only second to Lord Shazar, who's 32%, but isn't really relevant a lot of the content. So he's exactly the same as Arbiter, 30%. And his turn meter increase is actually this one here, so it's nowhere near as good, and you're not really getting the full benefit of it because you're using it straight off the bat and you're not resetting skills. The only reason I've put him in is because you can get to that first attack really quickly, and also, I think this is the main thing for me, if it doesn't go right, you can come back and then AoE all the enemies, remove all their buffs, and sleep them all for another turn, which gives your AoEs another chance to nuke him. So that is the main reason he's really strong at the follow-up attack. So if you just don't kill a couple of the champions, the main one being Skullcrown. So what happens with Skullcrown, as soon as you get her down to low health, she puts an unkillable on. The good thing about this guy is he does the turn meter increase, your team attack, do their thing, then she survives, she's got her unkillable up, he's super fast, so he comes back round, he puts her to sleep and removes the buff. Simple. So he's really good for sort of gold 4, killing all those Skullcrowns. So the obvious number 1 choice is the Arbiter. She is the reward from doing the missions, probably the best, most used champion in the game for speed leads anywhere, and she's just solid. She's got 110 speed, she's got the 30% increased speed aura, and she also increases turn meter by 30%, which is a huge amount. She also heals, but she also puts on increased attack, so it's like a beefed up version of Gorgrab's. She's the best, hands down. So she's the one I would recommend to use if you have her. She can also revive if it goes pear-shaped. She can remove buffs, put weakens down. Yeah, she's just super strong. If you are competing at sort of gold 4, if you can get her over sort of 300 speed, you're doing pretty well, and you should be able to outrun and you should be able to outrun most teams. Up to platinum, you're looking at 350 plus at least, which is pretty difficult to get. So always keep all those flat stats speed gear with speed rolls on them to see if you can maybe roll a double or triple speed on it. That's really how you get her up to these crazy speeds. But like I say, Lysandra probably would be a number one if she had this aura at 30%, because you're only able to use one speed lead or speed champion in this team. You have to use her as a speed lead and as also an increased turn meter. You have to use Arbiter because she just puts on so much more stats, and she will take a turn before. And the whole point of this team is you have to kill them in that first turn, otherwise you're dead. Right, last we'll go through the damage dealers here. And yeah, so these guys all have to have an A1 that does an AoE ability. And so starting on the top here, we've actually got this rare Bellower. He's pretty widely used for loads of content. He's got AoEs in all of his abilities, I believe. Yeah, he does. So a lot of people run him in like a stun set for dungeons. Really good as a campaign farmer, but we're using him here for his AoE A1 damage. So for your damage dealers, the great thing about this is you don't have to worry about speed because they're just attacking off the ally attack. So don't put any speed into this build, which means you can put attack boots on them. That is the reason they can do so much damage, because you don't have to worry about speed at all. So 100% crit rate, as much crit damage and attack as you possibly can, and that is it. Because you're not looking to land debuffs, you're not looking to do anything else survive. It's just 3 abilities: crit rate 100%, then crit damage and attack as high as possible. So that's the fun thing about this build, because you can build some crazy statted champions. But yeah, Bellower's got this AoE. He also puts a 20% chance, which is 30% when booked, I believe, of putting block cooldown skills, which is actually pretty relevant. But if you can get that accuracy up, but I would, like I said before, I would just go for crazy attack and try and kill them anyway, because you don't really want them to survive this. Number 6 is a really underrated champion, I believe. Soulbound Boyar. She's pretty strong actually. She's got this crazy A2 that could ignore most of a target's defense. So for a rare, if you're early on in the game, highly recommend building her as a damage dealer. But she's got an A1 that AoEs and an additional 25% of hitting a critical hit. So the good thing about her is the fact that she has this. If you run her alongside one of the top 2, which was Fakran or Cardiel, you only have to actually have your champion with 45% crit rate, because she's getting 25 here, and she also gets 30% from Fakran or Cardiel, so you can really boost up the attack and the crit damage. That's something I should have mentioned earlier. If you are using any of those champions, you need to get these AoE champions up to 70% crit rate, but that frees up loads more room for getting more attack and more crit damage down. So that's why I use Fakran right now, and if I had Cardiel, I would definitely use him. The next choice on the list is Cupidus. So he's pretty nuts. He's an AoE on his A1, but his damage increases by 15% if the target has any debuffs. He's also got 1.5k attack, which is huge. This guy might be crazy if you can use him alongside the Deacon champion that I showed earlier. Because he puts the AoE decreased defense down, that'll give a straight up 15% damage increase here. So there is a potential for a team, if someone could build it, if they built an absolutely crazy statted Deacon and then had 2 Cupidus coming behind it, that might actually be pretty damn strong. I'd like to see that. I don't know how well it would work straight off the bat, but I'm pretty sure it'd be pretty strong, especially if you ran them alongside like a Fakran or a Cardiel and got the 30% crit damage, and you only had to get him to 70% crit rate. That would be pretty nuts. So number 4 might be a bit of a surprise that I've put him above the last guy, because he's not actually an attack champion. His damage is based on attack, but it's 859 attack, unfortunately. But he does have a chance of stealing a buff, but it's not so much that, it's the fact that his multiplier seemed to be really strong. So I built this guy up and he seemed to do a ton of damage actually. He was really strong. So I think he actually hits better than Cupidus, which seems crazy to me. But he also has a little bit more utility in his kit. So you can put this ability back on champions afterwards, but you can also cleanse all your guys, heal, increase turn meter again. He's actually a pretty strong champion, so I'll put him in at the number 4 spot just now. Number 3 is the Big Un, one of the coolest guys in the game. I use him all the time. His one's really cool because it's actually a double hitter. It attacks an enemy, and as long as it's critical, which you need it to be, it attacks again, and it's an AoE this time, so he does crazy amounts of damage. So there's definitely a good scope for building just a team with 2 Big Uns. He's pretty damn strong, and he's a huge attack. It's like 1.57. One of the highest in the game, behind Trunda and stuff like that, so he will absolutely slam on his A1. But the number 1 and number 2, I'm going to show them together because they are the best for this composition by far, and they're both epics, which is pretty cool. which is Senesha and Skullcrown. So they're meant to be ran together. They've got some synergy where Skullcrown can basically be revived with 30% HP when Senesha's in the same team. You don't need to think about that. The only reason they're good together is because of their A1s. So our A1 attacks, AoE, places an extra hit if the target has more than 50% HP. And then if you go to Senesha, attacks all enemies, places an extra hit when they have less than 50% HP. So the way you set this up, if we go back to the team here, basically the turn order goes speed lead, second, third, and fourth. So as long as you have Skullcrown here, she'll go before Senesha. If I was to switch them round, she'll go after. So as long as she's going here, Fakran does his ability, they all attack. She hits first, so they've got full HP. So because they've got full HP, she'll hit a second time. Then Senesha comes in afterwards with their other ability when they're below 50% HP and hits twice again. So you're getting 4 hits out of this, which is blows all the other stuff out of the water, to be honest. I've done loads and loads of testing, and if you build these two right, they're by far the best team for this composition. In fact, the best blender composition, absolute pinnacle, would be this guy replaced with Cardio and these two in Arbiter. That is by far the best. So that's covered all the champions here. What we're going to do is we'll do a quick run through of what gear you need. There's a few different options. I'm actually just running this team in just bog standard damage gear and then speed gear because I'm not attacking teams with Torments in them. Because if you put a bunch of buffs on or increase your turn meter with Torment in the team, you'll probably freeze half your team down, then you'll lose. So as long as you just pick the teams you fight against, don't fight against Hegemon or Torments, you'll be fine. If you want a little bit more of a team that can do it all, what you have to do is you have to run that team in immunity gear. It's just pretty difficult to do. That's when it gets to the more high-end sort of stuff. To be honest, going all the way through silver and gold, even up to gold 4, you'll be totally fine. I use this team to farm gold 4 all the time, like I showed you earlier in the video, and there's like so many teams that this will just destroy, and it means you can put your best gear on them. Even at Platinum, I can beat a lot of the teams with my blender comp. It's just, it wouldn't be much use as a defense team because people would pick holes in it. If you can build an insane blender comp with good immunity gear, really high speeds, you could potentially put that in as a defense team and it would be pretty damn strong, but you need proper insane gear, and I'm an endgame player and it's hard to get that. So really all you're looking for is the fastest possible speed lead you can get. Put your fastest gear you have on her. If you haven't used it, the Hell Hades calculator on his website is really, really good. Check it out. You can actually just sift through all your items without having to look, and it'll tell you the fastest gear to put on your champ. So get your speed lead as fast as possible, then get this guy as close as you can in speed to this guy here. And then as soon as that happens, doesn't matter about speed on these two. So I'll quickly show you the speeds I've got on all my champs. So my Arbiter here, she is running at 364 speed. That's as fast as I can get her right now. Pretty good stats, but the rest of them don't matter. And Fakran, I've actually just taken off gear to put on another champion because I'm only running him in gold 4 right now. But he's only about 370, 363. But I've got a couple of pieces that I'd put back on him if I was using him in higher end content, and he's about 300 speed. So 300 seemed to be absolutely fine. There wasn't really anyone cutting in on me there. In terms of Senesha and Skullcrown, so I don't have the best gear on these guys because this isn't my A team. This is just the team I use to farm through gold 4. But really, if you can get Savage gear and crit damage, or Savage gear and Cruel, that's what you're looking for. So Senesha, again, you don't need crit rate up to 100%. You only need it at 70. I went a wee bit overkill here because she's ran with Fakran. So I was able to get these stats with Savage gear using kind of second rate gear as well. So she does pretty good damage with that. Unfortunately, my Skullcrown, I've only put her, again, I'm not putting the best gear on her, but I've put in crit rate, crit damage, and Cruel, so she is putting out some good damage. No Savage, unfortunately, but she's up at 280 crit damage, nearly 6k attacks, so she hits pretty hard. I could definitely strip some of my better champions and do this a lot better, but again, I don't need to because I'm just farming with this build anyway. So really, that's what you're looking for: as much crit damage and attack as possible, and 70% here if you're using Fakran or Cardio, and 100, definitely 100 if you're using one of the other ones. So anyway, that covers the blender comp, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. It's a really, really fun team actually, and it can beast you through those arena medals super, super quick. 100% a good one to use. like I say, if any of you guys have a crazy high-end sort of immunity team, I would love to see it. Post below, letting me know what kind of stats you're running on it. I've definitely played a few in Platinum Arena before that are pretty nuts, but none, I don't think I've seen one yet that I couldn't kill. So I'd love to see someone that maybe has a bunch of quad roll stats on an immunity set and manage to have them in defense and just wreck people. It'd be really cool to see. The only other thing with immunity, it's quite difficult to get that damage up to the same level, and you're not going to be able to run Savage Gear on your AoE champions. I don't know how viable it would be, but it would be cool to see if someone could do it. So anyway guys, that is the video. Hope you enjoyed it. Please like and subscribe as normal. Hit that bell button for notifications, and have a great day guys. Peace.